As many of you know, our investigation began on July 12th when we discovered the remains of what would later be identified as Janessa Shannon. A witness observed some unusual activity in the Triple Creek Nature Preserve off of Bomboyette Road and contacted law enforcement. Our deputies and detectives responded to the scene and found a shallow grave along with the remains. Since that time, our detectives have worked tirelessly, day in and day out, to solve this case. Any homicide is horrible, but homicide of 13-year-old is extremely tragic and disturbing, even to our seasoned detectives. Many of them have children the same age or have had them at that same age, so they felt a strong need to get justice for Janessa. We've conducted numerous interviews, obtained and served various search warrants, collected multiple pieces of evidence, and submitted them to various labs. And at this time, we're happy to say we've made an arrest in the case. Today, we arrested Nashawn Shannon, Jessica's father, charging him with aggravated child abuse and first-degree felony murder. And he'll be booked into our jail shortly with no bond. We're not going to get into the specifics of this case, as it's still active and it has to move forward through the prosecution phase. But we felt it was important for Janessa's family and the public to know that this case was not forgotten. It's been worked on daily by our detectives. What we will tell you is that we know that on July 1st, Nashawn Shannon picked Janessa up from her mother's residence in Bradenton due to some behavioral issues. We know Nashawn and Janessa came back to his residence in Riverview, here in Hillsborough County. And at some point, Nashawn and Janessa got into an argument, ultimately ending in the death of Janessa. Her body then was taken to the remote location at the preserve in an attempt to bury and hide the body. It's taken us a long time to get to this point, but this case is very complex. There was a lot of evidence taken from various locations, and it took some time for that forensic evidence to be analyzed and compared by experts in those respective fields. And then our detectives had to follow up on that information that was provided. I'd like to take a couple minutes to thank some of the individuals who assisted in this investigation. First, the detectives at the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office for the time and effort that they put into this case. They're passionate about every case they work on, but this one was truly a little different. Mr. Andrew Warren, the State Attorney for the 13th Judicial Circuit, and his Major Crimes Bureau, particularly Jay Pruner, they've worked hand in hand since we began this investigation, coming out to the scene, working with us to obtain search warrants, and ensure we had the necessary evidence to make an arrest and work towards a successful prosecution. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement, both the Tampa and Orlando field offices, who examined multiple upon multiple pieces of evidence in as timely manner as possible, which greatly assisted and helped us with our investigation. This case also required technical forensic experts in a number of different areas, and we were assisted by experts from the University of South Florida, University of Florida, the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office, as well as Dr. David Hall. This investigation also led us through several jurisdictions who all provided their assistance, to include the Manatee County Sheriff's Office, the Philadelphia Police Department, the Virginia State Police, and the Spotsylvania Commonwealth Attorney's Office. So I'd like to again thank them for their service. As you can see, this investigation required the cooperation of agencies across our country. And I'm sure there's some that I have failed to leave out, and I apologize for that. But I can tell you that every person that worked on this case worked hard to get justice for Janessa. And I know that doesn't take away the pain for the family, but hopefully it will help them to start working towards some closure. I'll answer a couple questions, but as I said, this is still an active investigation, so we won't get into some of the specifics.
Do we have a confession from the father?
We're not going to get into his statements.
About the time of death for the little girl?
Again, we're not going to get into the specific details on that.
You've been doing this a really long time, and I know that there's many, many cases you've worked on, but it seems to take it to another level, even more egregious than the next. When it's a father that's in custody accused of murdering a little girl.
Absolutely. For most of us, that's uncomprehendable. And to the fact that she's 13 years old, it really takes a toll on the detectives, the state attorneys, and all the people involved in that. That's why they've worked so hard over these past several months, really, every day. We talk to different people every day to try to get this case resolved.
You mentioned a lot of other agencies like Philadelphia. How were they involved in this?
At different points, Nishan Shannon traveled around the country for work purposes, and we needed to come into contact and execute certain search warrants for his phones and upon him at certain times, so they assisted us with that.
In many ways, this case has changed some of the ways the sheriff's office handles missing children or teenagers that have run away or have been gone missing that have a history.
Correct. We now provide to the media. We've always put out alerts internally and through the National Information Center in Florida that they were missing, but now we put it out to the media asking for requests to help.
Can you describe the way she was killed?
We're not going to get into that detail, but just to say it's very tragic, any loss of life.
Do you have a pretty firm grasp on the nature of this argument in terms of exactly what was being argued about and just kind of what would set this father off to do such a thing?
Again, we're not going to get into motive. That's something that's going to have to be
but
tried, but
do you have a good
we
grasp on that?
we have an understanding of what we need to move forward.
Any history of violence or abuse from the father in the past?
There is. Nishan has been arrested and convicted of 11 felonies in the past and 9 misdemeanors. The felonies include sexual assaults, felony batteries, burglaries, resist with violence, obtaining worthless property, and then there's a number of misdemeanor traffic offenses. But there have been allegations of abuse before. Those cases were never weren't able to be proved or taken to court. There was not enough evidence.
Cases against him concerning his daughter?
Various children of his. But again,
Including
those are
his daughter?
Confidential, so we're not going to get into the details of that.
So
What role
including-
has DCF played in this as far as any type of investigatory actions in the home?
In our child protective investigations, as we do that for the state, we've been involved in those investigations and reported that to DCF. So we have been involved in the past.
Did it seem odd to you guys that when we covered this, it just seemed weird, odd, quirky that the father just all of a sudden went on all these trips and was not here when his daughter was missing and was nowhere to be found? He was out of town.
It was very concerning to us, and the fact that she was not reported for 39 hours after she was last seen. That's concerning to us.
I would imagine this has to be exceptionally disturbing when you have a father who's accused of killing his own child. That's supposed to be the safest person they're supposed to be with.
It should be, and that's what most of us would think.
Is there anyone else in the family facing any charges, or even anyone else, period, facing charges?
At this point, there's no one else facing any charges.
Is he pretty cooperative now, the father?
No, he's not providing any statements at this time.
What was his career or trade? What did he do?
He's involved in information technologies, but I don't know any further than that.
How many children does he have?
My understanding is 3.
3, not necessarily from the same mother.
Correct.
Was the DCF involvement prior to this?
And again, the DCF investigations are confidential, so I can't get into those
I mean, now we
details.
can talk about this child a little bit. Were they directed at this child or other children, or?
Various, all of the children at
Girls,
some point.
boys?
2 girls and a boy.
Can you give us the ages?
I don't have that in front of me right this second.
Do you know if he actually was on work trips when he was taking those trips out of town right after she went missing?
Yes, we have confirmed that with his employer, and by our visits and meeting with him, he was working.
The one person we haven't asked about that who should be really first and foremost is her mother and her family. How are her family members?
Our detectives have talked to them earlier today to notify them of this. Obviously, they're still devastated. I think hopefully this helped in some way, but it's not going to replace Janessa or bring her back. So I can't speak for them any further than that.
Anything the public can take away or learn, or anything that can come out of this for the positive that people can learn from, or anything?
Yeah, I mean, love your children, take care of them. You know, kids, I'm sure, can be frustrating at times as they go through different cycles in their life, but parents need to have patience, and if they feel they're getting to a point walk out of the house, call somebody to come watch your kid if you're frustrated or something. But it's just a tragic and horrific incident.
Where was he
Right.
taken into custody?
Anything else?
Where was he taken into
He'll be
custody?
transported shortly.
He was taken into custody at his residence and is going to be transported shortly to Central
Okay.
Booking.
First appearance tomorrow.
I would assume normal course of duty.
What are the exact charges?
It's aggravated child abuse and first-degree felony murder.
Can you identify the person that saw him out there that night?
I'm not going to do that here at this time. Nobody said he saw him out there.
Okay.
There was where the body was found
Colonel, what's the enrollment for felony murder? Why is it felony murder?
because of the aggravated child abuse.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank